Mission time. After I was done preparing, I left the compounds alongside Hijikata-san, Saito-san, Nagakura, and Heisuke. Yamazaki-san was supposedly going ahead of our group to meet us at the Terada Inn.
Yukimura, 大丈夫か? だいぶ息を切らせているようだが。
I'm fine. This is nothing. We don't have a moment to spare right now. Literally, Sakamoto-san's life is on the line.
あともう少しだから頑張れよ。奉行所や見回り組の奴らに先を越されたら何の意味もねえからな。
I understand. Shortly after, we had arrived at the Terada Inn located in the center of Fushimi. Yamazaki-san, who had been hiding in the shadows of the building, came to approach us.
皆さん、お待ちしていました。
おう、状況はどうなってるんだ。伏見奉行所や見回り組の奴らはもう来てるのか。
今のところはまだですが、それも時間の問題かと。
そうか。
Hijikata-san's expression softened out of relief. Then immediately,
斉藤、俺と一緒に来てくれ。奉行所や見回り組の奴らを待ち伏せて少しでも到着を遅らせる。
承知しました。
新橋平助、それから雪村、俺たちが時間を稼いでる間に何としてでもここから坂本を逃がせ。
おう、任しといてくれって。
頼んだぞ。それじゃまた後でな。
Hijikata-san took Saito-san with him and disappeared into the night.
さて、そんじゃさっさと済ませちまうか。
お待ちください。
どうした？
Yamazaki whispered into our ears.
物陰からこちらの様子を伺っている者がいます。おそらく見回り組の手のものかと。
なんだって。
As we peered into the darkness, all of us caught a glimpse of movement like a haze in the shadows. It looked like a spy watching the Terada Inn.
どうする？正面突破なんてことをすりゃ後々面倒なことになるよな。
ひとまずあの見張りは俺と新八さんで何とかするから。お前と山崎君がその隙に裏から坂本のところへ行ってこいよ。
But will you be alright?
平気だよ。こう見えても危ねえ橋は数えきれねえぐらい渡ってきてるんだから。
それでは後のことはお願いします。
The two nodded at one another, put their arms around one another, and staggered with flailing limbs towards the front of the Terada Inn. Are you two pretending to be drunk?
よーし、次の店に行くぜ。今日はとことん飲んでやるからな。
あ、その言葉は嘘じゃねえな。飲み勝負なら負けねえぞ。
They are.
でかい口聞いてくれるじゃねえか。そんじゃどこからでもかかってきやがれ。
ちょっと待てってよ。どうして刀を抜いてるんだよ。飲み勝負じゃなかったのか？
飲み勝負だろうが剣術勝負だろうが鍛え抜かれた肉体を駆使することには変わりねえだろうが。かかってこねえのか？そんじゃこっちから遠慮なく行かせてもらうぜ。
The two, in their drunken charade, began arguing in the street, and the lookout spoke up.
ちょっと君たち、店の前で何をするつもりだ。迷惑だろ。
なんだ？新たな挑戦者か？俺はどんな相手の挑戦でも受けてやるぜ。
いや、ちょっと待て。お前のような酔っ払いと勝負などするつもりは。
As we watched the lookout deal with their performance, Yamazaki-san whispered to me.
雪村か、今のうちに。
Let's go. We tiptoed and rushed to the back of the shop. Once we'd reached the back, we looked up at the window on the second floor.
2階の窓から明かりが漏れている。坂本が投留しているのはおそらく2階だな。裏口から入り込めるといいんだが。君はここで待っていてくれ。俺が様子を見てくる。
Please be careful, Yamazaki-san. Yamazaki cautiously went inside to check the perimeter, but as soon as he tried to go inside, there was a voice from behind me.
おい、そこに誰かいるのか?
I froze. Before I could take any action, Yamazaki-san was on the move.
俺が引きつける。君は坂本のもとへ行け。
Yamazaki-san stood under the moonlight to draw attention to himself and then ran off.
待て、どこへ行くつもりだ？逃がさんぞ。誰か来てくれ。くせ者だ。
The person who was watching over the back entrance ran towards Yamazaki-san. I couldn't see anyone else around the area, so I think I was in the clear as far as guards go. If there was ever a chance to sneak into the inn, now was the time. If one of them returned here... No time to contemplate. Yamazaki-san became my decoy and left me to finish this. Failure is not an option, so I can't let this distraction be in vain. I took a big gulp, then I looked for an opening into which I could sneak. I strained my eyes and noticed that there was one window slightly ajar. It was a narrow window, but I think my body could fit in there. I took one last look over my shoulder, making sure no one was there, and I popped in. And then... here we go. My infiltration was successful, but... But what? Oh no. The room was pitch black, so I couldn't even see one foot in any direction. However, I took time to allow my eyes to adjust to the darkness, and although the shapes were kind of vague, I gathered my sense of direction. Is this the bathroom? Oh no. I lightly reached my arms out to feel for things around me, and I found the door and slid it open. I could, albeit faintly, make out the stairs. Luckily, I couldn't sense anyone around me. I held my breath and tiptoed up the stairs. And then... I slid the door open and walked in a room. Inside, I saw a man laying on his futon with his back facing towards me. There's no way I could mistake him. This man is... Sakamoto-san! The shadow got up and turned towards me.
どういておまんがここにおるがで。もしかして相引きに来てくれたがか。大胆な女は嫌いやないけんど、俺の方にも心の準備ゆうがが。
It sure was Sakamoto-san, and in the moment, I don't think it could have been any more relieved. I'll explain later. Please, you need to get out of here now.
はあ？なんで逃げるち？一体誰から逃げるかで？
The Fushimi magistrate and the Mimawarigumi are out to get you. As soon as he heard those words, he dropped the charm and tightened his face.
なんやと？
No sooner than when the words left his lips.
神妙にしろ、坂本。御用改めだ。
Armed officials goose-stepped up the stairs and barged into the room. Judging from their attire, they must have been either the magistrate or Mimawarigumi.
感動の再会の最中に土足で踏み込んでくるとは無粋な奴らやにゃ。
黙れ。この日の本の財を異国に売り飛ばそうと企む開国派の狼藉者め。
Open country faction. People in support of having open borders in Japan for trade, travel, and assimilation. The officials pointed their swords towards Sakamoto.
それの何が悪いがかさっぱりわからん。異国と商売することで豊かになるがやったらそれでええやいか。
Sakamoto-san! I was getting nervous seeing Sakamoto-san taunting the officials. Suddenly, he whipped out a pistol from his sleeve and pointed towards the men with drawn swords. Man has a gun. He grinned.
これが何ながかわかるろ。一歩でも近づいたら撃つぜよ。
That's scary.
これだけ近い間合いの中では刀の方が早い。
I don't know if y'all could hear the police going by, but they did.
おう、おいたら試してみるかい。先に言うじょっけんど、西洋の銃で腹を撃たれたらまず助からんらしいぜよ。内臓がぐちゃぐちゃになるきに。
For a second, it looked like they were giving in. Sakamoto-san kept his pistol pointed at them and turned his head to whisper to me.
後ろの部屋から屋根伝いに外へ逃げるき。ゆっくり後ろに下がって隣の部屋へ入りや。
I was shaking but nodded. Sakamoto inhaled deeply, watching the men stand nervously in front of him, and squinted. Then suddenly, the gun went off and screams followed, and the Mimawarigumi cowered. Then, I took advantage of the fracas and moved into the next room.
おのれSakamoto、神妙にしろ。
I heard another gunshot ringing from the room. I could hear the men shouting, followed by more gunshots and the Satsuma and the Satsumata for arrest. Satsumata, arms used to arrest and restrain your intended target. The grip is long and the tip is split in two. What? I gotta look that up after. I don't know what that looks like. Was Sakamoto-san going to be okay? I was worried.
こっちへ行け。
He grabbed my hand tightly and we jumped out the window. Oh shit! We're going to pass this way?
しょうがないろ。ここしかないがやき。文句はさっきのあの連中に言うてや。
But
おのれSakamoto、どこへ行った。ああ、見ろ。屋根の上に人がいるぞ。あれはまさか。
there were voices coming from everywhere. How are we supposed to escape from here? If we jump from this side, there's no question we'll get hurt. I'll probably be fine, but Sakamoto-san is...
大丈夫やき。何があってもおまんのことは守る。俺を信じや。
We're on top of a fucking roof! His voice was confident. This made me wonder. How could a man be so confident even at a time like this? It was as if his body was invincible. Listening to him speak confidently made me feel safe, and that if I stayed with him, nothing would happen to us no matter what. I'll go. Just then.
Sakamoto! 我あがきも大概にしろ。これ以上抗ってもためにならんぞ。
まったくしつこい連中じゃ。綺麗な女やったらともかく男に追いかけ回されても嬉しゅうともなんともないき。
That's your problem. I saw that Sakamoto was giving me a window to duck down as he distracted the officials. Just then,
雪村君、こっちだ。
I heard Yamazaki-san from under the roof. Yamazaki-san! I felt so relieved to hear a familiar voice, and with his help we were able to get down.
ここは俺が何とかする。坂本を連れて逃げろ。そちらの裏道からなら 人目につかず逃げられるはずだ。
Arigato, Yamazaki-san. Let's go, Sakamoto-san. Just a little bit more. I looked behind me. Sakamoto looked like he was in pain. Sakamoto-san, what's the matter?
いや、なんじゃない。はよ行くぜよ。連中に追いつかれる前ににゃ。
Sakamoto-san and I rushed through the dimly lit back alleys, but as we were leaving the terada, I could hear his footsteps becoming heavier with each step. Could this be? Sakamoto-san, are you hurt?
話は後にしや。今はできるだけはよ安全な場所に逃げんといかん。
He was right. Although we narrowly dodged what could have been a serious situation, we weren't 100% safe. I put my arm around Sakamoto-san's shoulder to help. Where should we run to?
薩摩藩の伏見屋敷じゃ。あそこやったら幕府も手が出せん。
Fushimi Mansion, Satsuma Domain's main base of operations in Fushimi. Alright. For now, I must focus on getting Sakamoto-san to a safe place. I prayed we wouldn't bump into any magistrate or Mimawarigumi people, and I continued to carefully walk along the alleyway. We were passing a wooden shack when... Oh, we're not gonna make it there, are we? Sakamoto-san coughed out in pain, and he fell to his knees. Sakamoto-san, hang in there. So, you were injured? Despite grimacing in pain, he forced a half smile.
女の前でみっともない姿を晒しとうなかったけんど。そろそろ潮時よ。これ以上は歩けそうにないき。
No! His face grew paler, covered in cold sweat. What has happened in between the roof and getting down from the roof?
このままやったらおまんも捕まる。俺はそこの小屋に隠れて追っ手をやり過ごすき。おまんは逃げや。
Sakamoto-san held a hand over his torso to cover the wound and attempted limping to the shack. I rushed to stop him. Mate! What are you going to do if they find you hiding here? If that happens, that could be the last time I ever see him. If they were to capture him, I don't think I could ever forgive myself.
平気やき。こう見えても運はええ方ながよ。何より俺にはまだやらにゃならんことが山ほどあるきに。こんなところで死ねるかい。
That's even more reason to get you treatment. I'm a doctor's daughter. I can treat sword wounds. However, Sakamoto-san refused to accept. He simply smiled bitterly through the pain and stared into my eyes. There has to be a way both of us can make it. Please don't give up. We can push through. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that was slowly building in my heart, so I grabbed his shoulders and tried to hold him back. Just then, he suddenly wrapped me tightly with his arms. I felt something warm press against my forehead. It took me a moment to realize they were Sakamoto-san's lips. Why was he doing this? Why would Sakamoto-san do this to me? In that moment, all of these questions began to melt away. As he held me closely against his breast, my heart began to dance rapidly in my chest. I couldn't speak. Thoughts drifted away, and soon all I could feel were his soft, full lips tenderly resting against me. Eventually, he lifted his lips from my forehead and whispered gently against my ear.
西洋じゃ恋仲の男女が別れる時こうするそうやき
Is it?
お前やったら唇にしたいところやけんどそれは次の機会にと直か
I stood in a daze, and Sakamoto-san's words seemed to swirl as they entered my ear. Just as I was staring into the twinkle of his moonlit eyes, he pushed me away and closed the door of the wooden shack. My senses returned, and I rushed to grab the door. Sakamoto-san, please, open the door! I pounded the door over and over until my fists began to bleed. I tried opening the door with all of my strength. I guess he got a stick with which to lock it. It was impossible to open. At this rate, he'll never make it. I should call for help. Go call for help. I want to treat him immediately, but as long as Sakamoto-san has no plans of opening up the door, it'd be a waste of time for me to stay here. Sakamoto-san, I'll be right back. Hang on until then. I screamed this from the other side of the door, and I ran towards the center of Fushimi. The Fushimi's Satsuma residence should be this building. Sumimasen! Is anyone here? I screamed out for someone, but the gate was closed shut, and it didn't look like anyone was coming out anytime soon. Please, if someone is in there, please come out. Please, someone might die. Someone, please. As I screamed a few more times, I saw someone approaching the gate.
女みたいな声やと思うたらやっぱりおまんかここに一体何の用ぜ
Nakaoka! He glared at me suspiciously, and his fierceness intimidated me, but I needed to tell him. Sakamoto-san is hurt. The magistrate and the Mimawarigumi were about to capture him. Please, save him!
なんやと坂本はどこにおるがな
Oops. It's this way. Nagao followed me back to the shack, but then Sakamoto-san opened the door without hesitation this time.
中岡来てくれたか今回ばっかりはさすがに死を覚悟したぜよ
なんを言うまだおまんに死んでもらうわけにはいかんがよ
After they briefly spoke, Nagoku looked towards me with a gruff expression.
俺はその娘についてきただけやき礼を言うならそいつに言いや
No, I... Just as I was about to say it wasn't me he should thank, Sakamoto-san simply smiled to me.
ありがとうおまんのおかげでもう少し生き延びられそうやき
Sakamoto-san's words of gratitude made me blush. I hid my face. Please be sure to treat yourself. If your wound becomes infected, it'll cost you your life.
心配はいらんどんだけこいつが泣きわめこうが
無理にでも治療を受けさせる気。
ああ、怖いにゃ。やっぱり途中で死んだ方が良かったかもしれん。
Sakamoto-san was in a joking mood, but Nakaoka turned around to face me with a menacing look.
俺らと一緒におるところを見られたら、おまんの立場がまずうなるろ。ここで別れよう。
はい。Please take care of Sakamoto-san.
わかっちゅう。さあ、坂本、俺の肩につかまれ。坂本を助けてくれたことに礼を言う。ありがとう。
Ah, Nakaoka can play nice. No problem.
おいたら、またにゃ。今度相引きするときは、邪魔が入らん場所を選ぶことにしようぜよ。
What are you saying? Sakamoto-san chuckled in response, and then he motioned to Nakaoka to help him walk off. Then they disappeared into the darkness. Even after I couldn't make them out in the distance, I wasn't able to bring myself to leave, so I just stood there, soaking in all that had just transpired. It's cold. I shivered there, alone in the chilly night air.
雪村君、ここにいたのか。
Yamazaki! Yamazaki-san, and everyone else too.
大事ないようだな。坂本の姿が見当たらぬようだが、かの者は一体どこに。
His friend came to pick him up, and he is now safe in the Satsuma residence.
なんだよ、手柄立て損なっちまったな。
ま、最善の結末ってわけじゃねえが、とりあえず合図や勝さんの意向に反しちゃいに上出来だ。一人でよくやったな、雪村。
Oh no, please. I wouldn't have been able to do this by myself.
まあ確かにそうかもな。見張りの注意を引きつけることができたのは俺の名演技のおかげだし。
Oh my god, Nagakura.
何が名演技だよ。あれいつも島原で飲んどくれてる時のままだったじゃねえか。
そんじゃ豚書に戻ることにするぞ。分かってるとは思うが、今回のことは口外無用だ。いいな。
分かってるって。
Maybe it was because everyone was able to get involved, but everyone was so upbeat. With Sakamoto-san's controversial position with the Shinsengumi and how everyone wanted a piece of him, it was difficult to think about how to feel. But even then, the warmth from the touch of Sakamoto-san's lips on my forehead still lingered, trickling down my face.
西洋じゃ恋仲の男女が別れる時こうするそうやき。お前やったら唇にしたいところやけんど、それは次の機会にとっちょくか。
Why did Sakamoto-san do that? Was it so he could push me away? Was that all?
おい、どうしたんだよ、ぼーっとして。
Sorry. It's nothing.
本当か？もしかして坂本になんかされたんじゃねえだろうな。なんだよその顔。もしかしてやっぱり。
Hesuke! Yeah. Nothing happened.
気をつけた方がいいぜ。尊上老子ってのは女を患者に仕立て上げたり情報を引き出すために利用するやつが多いからな。
Really? Then maybe what happened earlier was just to lower my guard and use me to get information on the Shinsengumi? Only Sakamoto-san would know, but my heart sank just thinking about such a thing. I watched above as the moon was veiled behind a gray patch of clouds, shining in sconces.